The Dallas Cowboys announced that they have signed cornerback Corey Ballentine to their practice squad on Thursday. Ballentine played 37 games, including 7 defensive starts, with the Packers from 2022 to 2024. After the 2024 season, Ballentine signed with the Indianapolis Colts, where he was released in early August before re-signing with the Packers for the remainder of the preseason. Ballentine was let go on August 27 during Green Bay's final cuts. The next day, he signed with the New England Patriots practice squad. For what it's worth, many projected that Ballentine was actually going to make the Packers' 53-man roster this year. Ultimately, that final cornerback job went to Kamal Hadden, who played all of 5 special team snaps over the first 2 games of the 2025 regular season before becoming a healthy scratch in Week 3. The Patriots actually played Ballentine in Week 1 as a practice squad elevation, but he was released from New England's practice squad this week. Now, Ballentine has a new home in Dallas. I'm sure that the Cowboys won't be picking his brain about the Packers' defensive scheme this week, leading up to the Dallas-Green Bay matchup on Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys have gotten off to a rough start to the 2025 NFL season, with Dak Prescott and company winning only one of their first 3 games as a result of a Week 2 thriller against the division rival New York Giants. One of the most significant issues for the Cowboys throughout the first 3 games of the season has been their inability to stop opposing offenses. Dallas has given up 92 points already this season, as the team has felt the sting of trading superstar linebacker Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. Fortunately for the Cowboys, the team will be getting some help on the defensive side of the football in Week 4, heading into the highly anticipated showdown with the Packers, with Parsons playing his former team in Dallas for the first time since being traded before the start of the 2025 campaign. Cowboys' defense may get a boost in Micah Parsons' return. Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer spoke to the media on Friday, providing an update on defensive stars Darren Bland and Trayvon Diggs. "We're excited Darren is coming back, and Trayvon is dealing with some stuff, like guys have to do," Schottenheimer said. "Awesome to see him come back in the game last week. Got the shoulder dinged up and then come back into play and make a couple physical plays was great to see. The best news of all is getting Darren back, because that gives you the flexibility to do the things that you need to do." With the Cowboys still trying to adjust to the glaring absence of Parsons, the defense desperately needs Bland and Diggs to play at a high level, especially during a matchup with one of the best all-around teams in the NFC. As expected, the Packers are the favorites, minus 6.5, coming into this game against the Cowboys in Week 4. All the pressure will be on Dallas because of the blockbuster Parsons trade, even though Green Bay is coming off a shocking loss to the Cleveland Browns in Week 3. George Pickens must step up in CeeDee Lamb's absence. The Cowboys will definitely be getting a boost defensively with Bland back and Diggs set to play in Sunday's game in Dallas, but the team suffered a major blow offensively last week, which might prove costly for the team's ability to move the chains and put points on the board. Star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb suffered a high ankle sprain during Week 3's loss to the Chicago Bears. He'll be out of the mix for the Cowboys for at least the next 2 games, which will pose a challenge for Prescott and the offense to pivot moving forward. With Lamb on the mend, the Cowboys will likely have to turn to wide receiver George Pickens, who is coming off 2 solid performances after a slow start in Week 1. Pickens has racked up 166 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 receptions. It'll be interesting to see how the passing game functions without Lamb and if Pickens can shoulder the load in the meantime. Mike McCarthy spent 13 seasons as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers and the last 5 as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He's one of a few ways the 2 teams are connected. They'll play against each other on Sunday Night Football on September 28th, and of course, they'll now forever be connected through the blockbuster trade that occurred over the summer, where the Cowboys sent Micah Parsons to Green Bay for a grab bag of assets. McCarthy has stayed out of the public eye since his departure from Dallas back in January, but accepted an interview with David Moore of Dallas Magazine. As arguably the best person to ask about anything involving Green Bay and Dallas, McCarthy talked to Moore about the blockbuster trade that sent Parsons to the Packers for Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. McCarthy's take on Micah Parsons' trade from the Dallas perspective: they're a young football team, and this gives them a lot of draft capital moving forward, McCarthy said. Kenny Clark, I'm not trying to compare him to Micah because he plays a different position, and I'm not saying he's a better person, but he's a stud of a man. From day one, when we had him in Green Bay, he was a top-notch person. I think the world of him. That's a really good locker room in Dallas, and Kenny is a really good fit. That and 2 number 1 picks. I know there is a long-term component that Dallas probably doesn't want to talk about with this trade, but I think they should feel good about that. As for Micah, he goes to a young team and another great organization. He can reach all of the goals he wants to reach as a player and a teammate. He's in a great spot. Clearly, McCarthy is under the impression that this was a win-win deal for both teams. He might be right. Obviously, losing Parsons is a huge hit on paper for the Cowboys, but from a business standpoint, they unloaded a ton of money and got a Pro Bowl caliber player in return. Even with Parsons, Dallas' defense wasn't anything to write home about, so it's understandable that from their perspective, they've set themselves up for success moving forward. Clark has been a good addition to the Cowboys' defense, having registered 10 tackles and a sack through 3 weeks. Parsons has been quiet in Green Bay, at least compared to his usual standards of registering nearly a sack per game. But as a part of a Packers team that is just now hitting its Super Bowl window, Parsons has all the room he needs to grow with a young team and be an absolute force as Green Bay looks to push towards a deep playoff run. Packers head to Dallas for Sunday Night Football. The Packers came out of the gates hot this season, with wins over Detroit and Washington, but were shockingly ousted by the Cleveland Browns in Week 3. They'll be an angry team heading into Dallas after a loss that shouldn't have happened. Meanwhile, Dallas has struggled to find momentum through 3 weeks, losing a tight battle with Philadelphia in Week 1 before allowing the New York Giants to hang around before defeating them in overtime in Week 2. They were crushed by the Chicago Bears in Week 3. Both teams have plenty of reason to come into Sunday night with anger and motivation to pick up a win. The Packers are favored by 6.5 points. Across all levels of all sports, it is known that a sprained ankle is often not something to play with. Ankle injuries vary in distinction, but high ankle sprains are typically viewed as the most detrimental. The Dallas Cowboys are in a precarious position after 3-time All-Pro wide receiver CeeDee Lamb sustained an ankle injury early in a Week 3 loss to the Chicago Bears. Lamb initially tried to return but was clearly limited and eventually took himself out. Testing confirmed a high ankle sprain, raising questions about Lamb's availability in the coming weeks. How much time he misses will depend on his recovery, but history shows this type of injury can take a toll on players of his caliber. Here's what to know about Lamb's injury and how much time he could miss this season. Across all levels of all sports, it is known that a sprained ankle is often not something to play with. Ankle injuries vary in distinction, but high ankle sprains are typically viewed as the most detrimental. The Dallas Cowboys are in a precarious position after 3-time All-Pro wide receiver CeeDee Lamb sustained an ankle injury early in a Week 3 loss to the Chicago Bears. Lamb initially tried to return but was clearly limited and eventually took himself out. Testing confirmed a high ankle sprain, raising questions about Lamb's availability in the coming weeks. How much time he misses will depend on his recovery, but history shows this type of injury can take a toll on players of his caliber. Here's what to know about Lamb's injury and how much time he could miss this season.